She married a human for peace, then watched him fight like a god of war. The twin suns of her planet cast golden streaks across the polished floors, but today their warmth felt distant to her. The council had summoned her to a mission unlike any she had ever undertaken. A mission that could decide the fate of her people, not through war or force, but through diplomacy. Her world, Zithra, was known across the galaxy for its knowledge, innovation, and strong leadership. Yet, despite its advances, Zithra could not face the threat of neighboring star systems alone. Tensions had been rising for decades, and a single misstep could ignite a war that no civilization, Zithra included, could survive. The Council's solution was bold, unexpected, and controversial. Lyra had been chosen to marry a human, a member of the species from the distant planet Earth. Humans were young, by galactic standards, and often underestimated. But they had proven themselves resourceful, adaptable, and, above all, courageous. This marriage was not about love, the Council had emphasized. It was about peace, about creating an unbreakable bond that could prevent disaster. Lyra had accepted, though her heart remained guarded. She had always been trained to see beyond emotion, to analyze every decision with clarity. Yet, even she could not deny the unease that settled in her stomach. Marrying someone she barely knew, someone from a species she had only encountered through records and hollow projections, was daunting. The transport ship arrived at Zithra's orbital station as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet. She boarded the sleek vessel, her attendants quietly following. The journey to Earth would take several weeks, a time she could use to prepare for this unusual alliance. As the ship glided silently through space, Lyra reviewed her notes about the humans. They were diverse, ambitious, and full of surprises. They valued individuality but also had a deep sense of community. Leaders among them were chosen not solely for their lineage, but for their actions, their ability to inspire, and their courage in difficult situations. The Council had chosen Kale for one simple reason. He embodied all these traits. He was a decorated officer, known for his bravery in the line of duty, his clever strategies, and his unwavering dedication to his people. Yet, the records told only part of the story. What lay behind his calm exterior? How would he react to a princess from a galaxy far older and more sophisticated than his own? Lyra shook her head lightly, setting aside her doubts. Worry would not serve her now. She had a mission to complete, and she would approach it as she approached all challenges, with focus, strategy, and determination. When the ship finally arrived at Earth's orbital station, Lyra was struck by the beauty of the planet below. Blue oceans, green continents, and white cloud formations stretched as far as she could see. It was alive, vibrant, and full of potential, a stark contrast to the calculated, precise world of Zithra. Kale was there to meet her. He stood tall, in a simple uniform that marked him as a human leader, but it was his calm presence that caught her attention first. He did not rush forward to greet her, nor did he bow excessively. He simply extended a hand, and in that moment Lyra felt a sense of steadiness she had not expected. "Princess Lyra," he said, his voice warm but confident, "welcome to Earth. I hope your journey was comfortable." Lyra studied him carefully. His eyes were steady, clear, and seemed to hold an unspoken understanding. She took his hand, noting the firm yet gentle grip. "It was," she replied, keeping her tone neutral. "Thank you for meeting me." As they moved through the station, Kale explained the plans for their temporary residence and the upcoming diplomatic events. He spoke clearly, concisely, and with an ease that made the complex logistics of interstellar diplomacy seem simple. Lyra could not help but feel a flicker of admiration. Humans, she realized, had a way of cutting through complication that was both refreshing and effective. Over the next few days, Lyra and Kale began the delicate dance of learning about each other. They shared meals in quiet observation rooms, walked along the orbital gardens and discussed their respective worlds. Lyra was careful to remain formal, but she could not ignore Kale's humility and sense of humor. He never claimed superiority, never flaunted his achievements. Instead, he listened, observed, and offered insights with a quiet wisdom that reminded her why he had been chosen for this alliance. One evening, as they stood together in the observation deck, Earth's ocean sparkling beneath them, Lyra allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. "You are different from what I expected," she admitted, her voice soft. "I thought humans relied more on instinct than thought." "That they would react first, think later," Kale smiled gently. "Some do, but many of us have learned that observation and patience often make the difference between success and failure. That, and the belief that we can rise to challenges, even when we are outmatched." Lyra considered his words. She had seen courage before, but there was something in the way Kale spoke that hinted at a deeper strength, not just physical but mental and moral. It was a strength that could inspire loyalty, unity, and hope. Their training for the upcoming diplomatic events began in earnest. Lyra was to learn about human customs, their methods of negotiation, and their approaches to conflict resolution. Kale, in turn, began to study Zitharan traditions, protocols, and the intricacies of her people's political systems. Though the task was monumental, they approached it with a mutual respect that slowly began to erode the barriers between them. One morning, during a simulation exercise designed to test their teamwork, Lyra was startled by Kale's ingenuity. A theoretical crisis had been presented, a dispute between two alien systems threatening to escalate into open conflict. Kale's approach was methodical, creative, and compassionate. He proposed solutions that considered not only strategy but empathy, cultural understanding, and long-term consequences. Lyra could not suppress a small smile. "I underestimated you," she said, a hint of genuine admiration in her voice. "Good," Kale replied, grinning. "Underestimating humans has been a common mistake, but it's a mistake that teaches valuable lessons." As the weeks passed, Lyra began to see the humans in a new light. They were not the weak, impulsive beings many galactic civilizations assumed. They were adaptable, resourceful, and surprisingly united when guided by the right principles. And Kale, he was a living example of that potential, a man who could lead not through fear but through inspiration. Yet, despite the growing respect between them, Lyra reminded herself of the purpose of their union. Love was not a requirement, peace was. She carried the weight of her people's survival on her shoulders, and she could not allow personal feelings to cloud her judgment. Still, as she observed Kale guiding humans and aliens alike with calm authority, she could not deny a spark of curiosity and intrigue. What would it mean for her world if humans were truly capable of greatness on such a scale? The final days before the formal marriage ceremony were filled with preparation and reflection. Lyra spent hours in meditation, reviewing every aspect of her mission, every potential challenge. She also took quiet moments to watch Kale interact with those around him. There was a subtle nobility in his actions, a clarity of purpose that drew respect from all who encountered him. On the morning of the ceremony, as Lyra prepared herself, she looked in the mirror and took a deep breath. Today, she would take a step that could change the course of galactic history. She would marry a human, not for love but for the hope of peace. When she entered the grand hall of the orbital station, Kale was already there, standing tall and calm. Their eyes met, and for the first time Lyra felt a quiet assurance. Perhaps this alliance, as unusual as it seemed, had the potential to succeed, not just for diplomacy but for something greater. The ceremony was brief, dignified, and solemn. As they exchanged vows, not of passion, but of commitment to peace, Lyra noticed something remarkable. Kale's calm confidence was contagious. Even the most skeptical diplomats and ambassadors present seemed reassured by his presence. As the ceremony concluded, Lyra took Kale's hand. She could feel the steady warmth, the quiet strength, and most importantly, the possibility of a future where humans were not underestimated, where courage, intelligence, and unity could create lasting peace. For the first time in weeks, Lyra allowed herself a small smile. The mission had begun, and she had no doubt that the journey ahead would be challenging. But with Kale at her side, she felt a growing sense of hope. Perhaps humanity, in all its unpredictability, could teach even a princess of Zithra something remarkable. And perhaps, just perhaps, she would discover that strength could be found in the most unexpected forms. The first week after the ceremony had been filled with formalities and introductions. Lyra and Kale visited diplomatic halls, councils, and embassies. Humans, though polite and respectful, were a new and curious presence to the galaxy, and many of the ambassadors watched every move closely. Lyra's role was clear: maintain dignity, uphold Zithra's traditions, and ensure that the alliance began on the strongest footing. Kale's role, however, was not just ceremonial. He was expected to demonstrate the value of humans, to show that their courage, intelligence, and unity were forces to be respected. On the third day, while Lyra and Kale were walking through the gardens of Earth's largest orbital station, an unexpected alert flashed across the station's communication panels. The Council of the Neutral System had detected a fleet of ships approaching rapidly from the outer sectors. Their origin was unknown, but their intent was unmistakable. They were testing the station's defenses. Panic rippled through the diplomatic crowd, but Lyra noticed Kale's calm demeanor first. He stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "Stay here. I need to see the command center." Lyra hesitated. "Kale, this could be dangerous. They may not be here for diplomacy." Kale gave a faint smile, almost reassuring. "And that's exactly why I need to lead from the front. Trust me." Despite the unease in her chest, Lyra watched as Kale moved with purpose. He did not shout or panic. He did not command with arrogance. Instead, he asked questions, listened to reports, and observed every detail. Within minutes, he had assessed the situation. The approaching ships were not aggressive, yet they were testing defenses, probing the station's readiness. It was a delicate moment. Any wrong move could escalate tensions. Lyra followed him into the command center. The room was a hive of activity: holographic displays, blinking lights, and officials speaking rapidly in multiple languages. Kale's presence had a calming effect. Where others panicked or argued, he listened, suggested, and coordinated. "Redirect the non-essential ships to secondary docking bays," Kale instructed. "Alert the ambassadors, but keep them calm. We need to show readiness, not fear." Lyra was impressed. The humans around him moved efficiently, trusting his judgment without question. Kale had a way of uniting people, of giving clear instructions without creating tension. It was a leadership she had rarely seen, even among her own seasoned advisors. As the approaching fleet drew closer, Kale devised a plan that emphasized strategy over confrontation. He instructed the station's defense drones to form a visible perimeter, not as weapons, but as a demonstration of preparedness. He coordinated with communications officers to send messages in multiple languages, clarifying that the station sought peace but would respond firmly if threatened. Lyra observed him carefully. Every move Kale made was precise, calm, and effective. Humans had long been underestimated by galactic civilizations, but here was a man who combined intellect, courage, and empathy in a way that could rival any of the galaxy's most renowned leaders. Hours passed as the fleet circled, testing the station's response. Each time a small group of ships advanced, Kale adjusted the station's strategy. No panic, no rash decisions, only careful observation, careful leadership, and subtle demonstrations of strength. Finally, the fleet turned away. Their message was received. The station was ready, the humans were capable, and the alliance was not to be underestimated. Lyra felt a rush of relief, but also something more profound. She had seen humans in action before, through records and stories, but witnessing it firsthand, seeing Kale's brilliance, was a revelation. That evening, the station's council gathered to review the events. Ambassadors spoke of their surprise, praising the humans' ability to handle a potentially dangerous situation without aggression. Lyra sat beside Kale, feeling an unexpected pride in the man who had once seemed so ordinary, now standing as a beacon of human capability. "You did remarkably well today," she said quietly once the council session ended. Kale shrugged modestly. "It was a test, yes, but more importantly, it was an opportunity to show what humans can do when we work together. We don't rely on fear or power. We rely on understanding, preparation, and courage." Lyra nodded. She realized that courage was more than physical strength. It was calmness under pressure, clarity of thought, and the ability to inspire others to act bravely. Kale possessed all of this in abundance. Over the next few days, the two continued to navigate the delicate process of diplomacy. Lyra was struck by the way Kale handled meetings. He did not dominate conversations, nor did he blindly defer to protocol. Instead, he listened actively, asked insightful questions, and offered solutions that were practical yet innovative. Even in moments of disagreement, he remained respectful, persuasive, and confident without arrogance. One afternoon, as they walked along the observation decks, Kale shared a personal story about Earth. "We've faced challenges before," he said thoughtfully. "Not wars like you see in the records, but challenges that test our spirit. We've learned that when we stay united, when we think, plan, and act together, we can overcome almost anything. That's what I try to remember, even in high-pressure situations." Lyra considered his words. She had grown up in a world of strategy and tradition, yet humans seemed to find strength in simplicity, in adaptability, and in trust. Kale's ability to inspire that trust in others, to unite disparate groups toward a common goal, was remarkable. She had married for peace, as her counsel instructed, but she realized that this human might be more than just a symbol of diplomacy. He might be a key to a stronger, lasting peace. The calm of the orbital station was soon tested again. Reports arrived of a neighboring system experiencing unusual activity. Ships were maneuvering in ways that suggested testing, not direct aggression, but the potential for misunderstanding was high. Lyra watched as Kale quickly organized a strategy session, bringing together humans and alien advisors alike. "You see, Lyra," he explained quietly as they worked, "strength is not just about what you can do alone. It's about how you guide others, how you anticipate outcomes, and how you prepare for them. The most important battles are often won before they even begin, in the mind, in the heart, and through careful planning." Lyra was fascinated. Humans were underestimated because many assumed physical power equaled strength. But Kale's actions demonstrated a different kind of power, the power of intellect, strategy, and emotional intelligence. Over the following week, Kale led several simulations to prepare for any eventuality. Lyra participated closely, observing his decision-making, learning his methods, and even contributing ideas. Their teamwork deepened. She began to notice subtle qualities that went beyond skill: humility, patience, humor, and an unwavering dedication to protect life rather than destroy it. Then came the most surprising moment. During a late-night briefing, a minor system malfunction threatened the station's energy supply. Panic could have spread among the staff, but Kale's calm voice guided everyone through a logical sequence to resolve the issue. He delegated tasks with clarity, reassured those unsure of their roles, and inspired confidence. By the time the crisis was averted, the station staff looked at him with admiration, not fear. Lyra felt a sense of awe she had never expected. This human, chosen for a marriage of convenience, was proving himself to be a force of nature in the best possible sense. He did not fight with weapons or brute strength. He fought with courage, intelligence, leadership, and unity. To Lyra, it was as if she were witnessing a god of war in action, but a god who fought not for conquest but for protection and peace. That night, as they looked out over the glowing lights of Earth below, Lyra spoke softly. "Kale, I underestimated humans. I thought they were limited by their size, their youth, their lack of experience in galactic politics. But I see now, you are capable of far more than anyone has imagined." Kale smiled faintly, his eyes reflecting the light of distant cities. "We all are, Lyra. Humans, aliens, everyone. Strength is not just what you have, it's what you inspire in others. That's what matters most." Lyra remained quiet for a moment, letting the truth of his words settle. She had married for peace, but she was beginning to see that she had gained much more. A partner, a teacher, and perhaps even a friend who could challenge her assumptions and show her a different path to strength. As the days turned into weeks, their partnership solidified. Lyra grew more confident in her role, inspired by Kale's calm decisiveness. The humans and Zitherans worked together, learning from each other. And in every challenge, Lyra noticed the same pattern. Kale's bravery was quiet but undeniable, his intellect sharp, and his ability to unite people unparalleled. The first challenge had tested them both, and they had passed, not through force, but through courage, strategy, and trust. Lyra began to understand the truth behind her council's decision. Humans were not to be underestimated. In Kale, she saw the potential for greatness, for leadership, and for peace that could endure for generations. For the first time, she felt a spark of hope, not only for the mission she had undertaken, but for the galaxy itself. Weeks had passed since the first challenge. The calm after the tension had given Lyra and Kale time to grow more familiar with each other, though the mission's stakes remained high. Their marriage had secured a fragile peace, but it was clear that true trust and respect between their people required more than words. They needed to show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. The Council had identified a mission crucial to stabilizing the alliances in the galaxy, retrieving an ancient artifact known as the Luminar Core. The core was not a weapon, nor was it dangerous. Instead, it was a source of wisdom, an ancient device said to promote understanding and clarity among civilizations. Whoever possessed it could mediate conflicts more effectively, as the artifact amplified logical thinking and emotional balance. Many species had tried to locate it, but none had succeeded. Lyra and Kale were chosen to lead the mission together. The path to the core was filled with challenges, uncharted systems, mysterious energy fields, and puzzles left behind by civilizations long gone. Lyra had anticipated strategic planning, but what she did not expect was Kale's way of approaching the unknown, not with fear, but with curiosity, creativity, and calm confidence. Their first stop was the planet Urindor, a vibrant world of floating crystal formations and dense forests. The Luminar Core's energy signature had been detected beneath the surface, hidden in a network of caves and tunnels. Lyra and Kale landed their ship near a crystalline cliff, stepping into a landscape that shimmered with light, almost as if the planet itself was alive. Kale paused for a moment, observing the environment carefully. "We'll need to map this area before moving forward," he said, his voice steady. "Rushing in could trigger traps, or we might miss important pathways." Lyra nodded. She admired his patience. Many leaders she had met in the past would have charged forward with arrogance or force. Kale moved differently. He listened, observed, and thought carefully before acting. It was a style of leadership that inspired confidence in those around him. They began their descent into the caves. The walls were lined with glowing crystals that emitted soft pulses of light. As they moved deeper, they encountered puzzles designed to protect the core. Some were mechanical, requiring careful coordination to unlock doors or redirect energy flows. Others were mental, demanding logic, pattern recognition, and teamwork. Lyra expected to take the lead, given her extensive training in strategy and problem-solving. But Kale surprised her. He approached each puzzle with creativity and calm reasoning, offering ideas that blended human ingenuity with practical observation. For example, when a door required a sequence of light patterns, Kale suggested using the reflections of the crystals to reveal the hidden sequence, something Lyra had not considered. Humans are persistent, he explained with a smile as the door clicked open. We don't give up easily, we find ways to adapt. Lyra felt a growing admiration. Here was a human who could think, innovate, and inspire at the same time. His mind worked like a network of possibilities, always anticipating outcomes, yet never rigid. He encouraged discussion, valued her insights, and never dismissed an idea. As they continued deeper, they reached a chamber where the path split into multiple directions, each guarded by energy fields. Lyra analyzed the options carefully. Each path had risks. Some were narrow and winding, others were unstable or required precision timing. Kale observed quietly, his eyes scanning every detail. "I think the left path is better," he said finally, pointing to a series of crystal formations. "It's slightly longer but more stable. And see here," he added, indicating a pattern in the crystals. "We can use these as markers to guide our way back if needed." Lyra smiled. It was simple, practical thinking, yet it demonstrated a mind attuned to both detail and the bigger picture. As they moved, they discovered the importance of trust in each other. Lyra followed Kale's guidance, while Kale trusted her instincts. Their combined skills allowed them to navigate challenges faster and more effectively than either could alone. Hours passed, and the caves tested both patience and creativity. At one point, they encountered a chamber filled with shifting platforms and reflective surfaces. A single misstep could block progress. Kale paused, examining the pattern of movement. "Step when the light hits here," he instructed, showing her the exact moment. "It's not dangerous if timed correctly. We just need focus." Lyra followed, marveling at his precision and foresight. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy for their physical size, but Kale's intelligence, adaptability, and calm decisiveness revealed a strength far beyond appearances. Eventually, they reached the inner sanctum. The luminar core stood atop a pedestal, glowing with soft, pulsating light. Lyra approached first, reverently studying its intricate design. "It's more beautiful than I imagined," she whispered. Kale stepped beside her. "And more valuable than any weapon. This will help civilization see reason, even when conflict seems inevitable. It's a reminder that wisdom and understanding can triumph over fear or pride." Lyra nodded. She had expected the core to be symbolic, but in its presence, she felt a tangible sense of clarity, as if the air itself encouraged calm thought and cooperation. Their work was not yet finished. Retrieving the core required activating a series of mechanisms in the correct order, based on observation, logic, and teamwork. Kale suggested they divide tasks. Lyra would analyze patterns, while he coordinated the energy flow and timing. "Ready?" he asked, his eyes meeting hers with quiet determination. "Ready," she replied, her voice steady. The mechanisms hummed and glowed as they worked together, moving in perfect synchronization. Lyra felt a thrill of accomplishment, not just for the task itself, but for the teamwork that made it possible. Humans, she realized, had a remarkable ability to unite with others, to combine strengths in ways that were often unexpected. Finally, the core activated fully. A gentle wave of energy swept through the chamber, illuminating every corner and creating a sense of harmony. Lyra felt her mind expand with understanding, and she saw Kale's face reflect the same quiet awe. "We did it," she said softly. Kale nodded. "We did. And not because we were alone, but because we worked together. That's the real power." In the days following the core's retrieval, Lyra and Kale traveled back to the station with the artifact securely in tow. Along the way, Lyra reflected on what she had witnessed. Kale's courage was not loud or aggressive. It was quiet, deliberate, and thoughtful. He did not need to dominate or intimidate. He led by example, inspiring others to act bravely and wisely. When they presented the Luminar core to the council, it was celebrated as a triumph of collaboration, strategy, and intelligence. Lyra's people began to see humans differently. No longer merely a young, inexperienced species, they were now recognized as capable allies, able to contribute meaningfully to the galaxy's stability. Kale, ever modest, credited their success to teamwork. Lyra's insights were as crucial as any of mine, he said, looking at her with a mixture of respect and warmth. We complement each other. That's how progress happens. Lyra felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had married for peace, yes, but she had also discovered a partner whose abilities and wisdom exceeded expectation. Humans, she realized, were not defined by strength alone. They were defined by courage, creativity, adaptability, and the ability to inspire others. That night, as they rested on the observation deck, Earth glowing beneath them, Lyra spoke quietly. Kale, I see now why the Council chose you. You're not just a human. They are underestimated because they surprise people at the right moment, not through force, but through intelligence and courage. Kale smiled faintly. We all have strengths, Lyra. Humans just learn to combine ours in ways that often surprise others. But you guided and trusted me. That made all the difference. Lyra felt a warmth she had not expected. For the first time since arriving on Earth, she allowed herself to feel more than duty and strategy. She felt respect, admiration, and even a spark of friendship that could grow into something greater. The mission to retrieve the Luminar core had been more than a success. It had been a revelation. Lyra had seen the true potential of humans, not as soldiers or conquerors, but as thinkers, innovators, and unifiers. Kale's quiet courage, his intelligence, and his ability to inspire action without fear had proven that humans could achieve greatness in ways the galaxy had never fully understood. As they prepared to return the core to Zithra, Lyra felt a renewed sense of purpose. The galaxy was full of challenges, but with humans like Kale, she was certain that diplomacy, wisdom, and courage could prevail. She glanced at Kale, watching him coordinate the final preparations with calm efficiency. She realized with a sense of awe that she had married not just a human for peace, but a man whose mind, courage, and heart could change the course of history. And for the first time, Lyra felt that perhaps the galaxy was ready to see humans not as underdogs, but as heroes in their own right. After the successful retrieval of the Luminar core, Lyra and Kale returned to Zithra with a sense of quiet triumph. The core's presence alone had strengthened diplomatic relations, and many species began to view humans with newfound respect. But the galaxy, as always, remained unpredictable, and challenges were never far away. One morning, while reviewing interstellar reports in the palace observation room, Lyra noticed an alert flashing on the holographic display. A massive cosmic storm was moving across a neighboring system, threatening not just travel routes, but the stability of several inhabited planets. The storm was unusual. It was larger than any recorded in recent history, with unpredictable energy surges that could disrupt communication systems, power grids, and even space travel. Kale studied the display carefully. This isn't just a meteorological event, he said, pointing to the fluctuating energy readings. It's a combination of magnetic disturbances and gravitational shifts. If it hits the populated areas, the consequences could be serious. Lyra felt a shiver of unease. Can it be contained? She asked. Kale shook his head. We can't stop the storm itself, but we can guide people, coordinate resources, and prevent damage. That's our responsibility. Without hesitation, Kale began organizing a response. He divided tasks among Zitharan officials, human engineers, and volunteers from other allied species. The plan was ambitious. Evacuation routes, communication channels, and energy field stabilizers would all need to work in harmony to protect millions of lives. Lyra watched him in action and felt a growing admiration. Kale did not panic, even under the immense pressure of potentially catastrophic consequences. He moved with calm authority, listening to concerns, integrating advice, and guiding the team toward practical solutions. Over the next several hours, the station and surrounding planets became a hive of coordinated activity. Kale's leadership was evident in every decision. He monitored the storm's approach using advanced sensors, adjusted evacuation plans in real time, and ensured that each species' strengths were utilized efficiently. At one point, Lyra noticed a communication breakdown between two planetary teams. Panic threatened to spread and some leaders began arguing over priorities. Kale intervened, his voice firm but reassuring. "Stop," he said. "We are all on the same side. Focus on what we can do, not what divides us. Here's how we will proceed." He outlined a clear solution, delegating roles and responsibilities with precision. Within minutes, the teams resumed coordination, following Kale's plan with confidence. Lyra was impressed. Humans, she realized, had a remarkable ability to inspire cooperation, even in chaotic situations. Kale was the perfect example, calm, strategic, and empathetic, yet decisively commanding when needed. As the storm drew nearer, Lyra and Kale observed its vastness from the orbital station. The swirling colors of charged particles and gravitational waves created an awe-inspiring but dangerous spectacle. Many would have been intimidated by the storm's size, but Kale remained focused. "This is the true test," he said softly to Lyra. "Not just strategy or intelligence, but patience, courage, and unity. This is what shows the strength of a species." Lyra realized the truth in his words. She had witnessed humans in controlled challenges before, but this was different. The storm was unpredictable, massive, and beyond their control. The only way to succeed was through leadership, collaboration, and trust. For the next 24 hours, Kale coordinated nonstop. He rotated teams to ensure no one became exhausted, monitored energy fields to stabilize planetary systems, and relayed vital information to all affected species. Lyra assisted him, offering Zitharan knowledge of energy manipulation and diplomacy. Together, they created an intricate web of protection that combined human ingenuity with Zitharan technology. During the peak of the storm, one particularly massive surge threatened a densely populated orbital city. The emergency alarms blared and many species panicked. Lyra felt a surge of fear, but Kale's calm presence steadied her. "Follow my instructions carefully," he said. "We can protect the city, but everyone must move in coordination." He guided teams through precise energy field adjustments, creating a temporary shield while evacuation pods moved safely to secure locations. Lyra worked beside him, coordinating communications and ensuring that no detail was overlooked. When the surge passed, the city remained intact. Lyra felt a mixture of relief and awe. Kale had led not with force but with intelligence, empathy, and foresight. His strength was not in aggression. It was in his ability to inspire action, create solutions, and unify diverse beings toward a common goal. The storm continued to challenge them, moving unpredictably across multiple systems. Each new surge tested their patience, coordination, and endurance. Kale remained steady, encouraging his teams, adapting plans, and anticipating complications. Lyra, too, felt herself changing. She began to see leadership not as dominance or power, but as guidance, patience, and the ability to make others feel capable. Late into the third day of the storm, Kale and Lyra received reports of a small alien fleet stranded in a gravitational anomaly. Communication was limited and panic was spreading among the fleet's crews. Kale assessed the situation quickly. "We need to coordinate a rescue using both human and Zitharan technology," he said. It will be delicate, but it's possible. Lyra nodded. Together, they organized a rescue operation. Humans piloted ships through the anomaly, while Zitharan energy stabilizers created safe paths. Kale's instructions were clear, precise, and adaptable. Every crew member knew their role, and every action contributed to the mission's success. By the time the alien fleet was safely guided out of danger, Lyra felt a deep sense of respect. Kale had faced challenges far greater than expected, yet he remained composed, guiding others to safety without needing to control them. His courage was not loud or flashy. It was steady, deliberate, and effective. As the storm finally began to dissipate, Lyra and Kale stood together in the observation deck, overlooking the planets they had helped protect. The stars shimmered through the dissipating storm clouds, a reminder of the vast universe beyond their immediate concern. "You were incredible," Lyra said softly, turning to Kale. "I've never seen leadership like this, not in Zithra, not anywhere. You didn't fight with weapons, but you fought with courage, wisdom, and heart. It's awe-inspiring." Kale smiled, though he seemed slightly weary from the constant effort. "I just did what humans have always done when faced with impossible situations. We try, we think, we adapt, and we trust those around us. You, Lyra, made this possible too. Your knowledge, your guidance, it was as important as any of my decisions." Lyra felt warmth spread through her chest. She had married for peace, yes, but in the storm, she had witnessed the true strength of the man she had chosen. Kale was more than a human. He was a leader, a strategist, and a symbol of what humanity could achieve when courage, intelligence, and unity were combined. The aftermath of the storm was a moment of reflection for the galaxy. Reports of Kale's leadership spread across star systems. Humans, long underestimated, were now recognized as capable, intelligent, and resilient allies. Lyra felt a quiet pride, knowing that she had played a role in bridging the gap between species. In private moments, Lyra spoke with Kale about the experience. "Do you realize what you've shown the galaxy?" she asked. "Not just your skills, but the strength of humans in general. You've changed perceptions, Kale. People will never underestimate your species again." Kale's eyes reflected humility. "I hope so," he said softly. "But more importantly, I hope they remember that strength is not just about being the strongest. It's about courage, intelligence, and the will to protect others. That's the kind of strength we all can have." Lyra nodded. She realized that in watching Kale lead through the storm, she had learned something vital about herself, too. Leadership was not only about decisions or strategy, it was about trust, collaboration, and the ability to inspire others. Kale's example had opened her mind to a new way of seeing strength, one that combined intelligence, patience, and heart. The storm had tested them, and they had passed, not through force, but through courage, wisdom, and unity. Lyra felt a renewed sense of hope. The galaxy was unpredictable, full of challenges, but with humans like Kale, there was reason to believe that peace, understanding, and greatness could prevail. As they prepared to return to Zithra with the lessons of the storm behind them, Lyra glanced at Kale. He was quietly observing reports, planning next steps, and ensuring that all systems were secure. She felt a quiet awe. She had married for diplomacy and peace, but she had found something extraordinary. A human whose courage, intelligence, and heart could inspire not only her, but the galaxy itself. And for the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future in which humans were recognized not as a young, inexperienced species, but as capable, heroic, and indispensable partners in the vast galaxy. The weeks following the cosmic storm were a period of reflection and rebuilding. Lyra and Kale had returned to Zithra, bringing not only the Luminar core, but also stories of how they had guided planets through the storm. Their actions had resonated far beyond the palace walls, earning praise from humans, Zitharans, and alien species alike. The galaxy seemed to be watching them now. Ambassadors from distant systems arrived at the palace, eager to meet the human who had led with courage, intelligence, and heart. Kale, humble as ever, received them with quiet confidence, explaining solutions and answering questions with patience. Lyra observed him and felt a deep respect. He did not seek recognition, yet the admiration he inspired was universal. Lyra herself had changed. She had arrived on Earth expecting to marry for diplomacy alone, but she had gained something far greater: a partner, a teacher, and a symbol of hope. Her understanding of humans had evolved. They were not simply young and untested. They were resilient, creative, and capable of inspiring unity even in the face of great challenges. Kale embodied all of this. One morning, as they walked through the palace gardens, Lyra spoke quietly. Kale, the galaxy will never see humans the same way again. You've shown them that we can work together, think clearly, and act bravely. That alone is a gift far greater than any artifact we could have found. Kale smiled, his eyes reflecting the morning sun. It's not just me, Lyra. Humans are capable, yes, but they are most powerful when they work with others, when they trust and support one another. You've guided and supported me every step of the way. That's what made the difference. Lyra felt a warmth she could not describe. She had thought of this marriage as a duty, a tool to secure peace. But now she saw it as a partnership built on mutual respect, trust, and shared purpose. Kale's humility, combined with his extraordinary courage, had transformed her understanding of leadership, unity, and what it meant to be human. The Luminar core had also begun to make its influence known. Using its subtle energy, it facilitated clearer communication among species, allowing disputes to be resolved more peacefully and efficiently. With Kale and Lyra guiding its use, several systems that had been on the brink of tension began to cooperate, share resources, and establish new alliances. One such meeting brought together Zitharans, humans, and representatives from a previously hostile system called Thyranus. Their initial discussions had been tense, with suspicion and doubt visible on every face. Yet Kale's calm leadership, combined with Lyra's wisdom, transformed the environment. They encouraged dialogue, emphasized common goals, and demonstrated practical solutions to shared problems. By the end of the meeting, the Thyronians had agreed to a cooperative initiative with Zithra and Earth. Lyra could see the shift in perspective. Humans were no longer considered outsiders. They were partners, capable of bridging gaps between species that had once seemed unbridgeable. Kale's reputation spread quickly. Ambassadors spoke of him not as a warrior, but as a leader who embodied the best qualities of humanity: courage, intelligence, adaptability, and compassion. Even the most skeptical species began to acknowledge the human potential they had long underestimated. Lyra reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She remembered their first meeting on Earth's orbital station, her initial doubts, and the weeks of learning and discovery that had followed. She had married for peace, but she had discovered a truth far more profound. Humans were extraordinary not because of strength or weaponry, but because of their creativity, resilience, and ability to inspire others. Kale personified these qualities, and through him, the galaxy saw humanity in a new light. As the months passed, Lyra and Kale continued to work together. They organized programs to educate young leaders across multiple planets, emphasizing problem-solving, cooperation, and ethical leadership. Kale encouraged students to think critically, adapt to challenges, and trust their own judgment. Lyra shared her experience in diplomacy, showing how patience, observation, and empathy could resolve conflicts peacefully. In these moments, Lyra often watched Kale interact with the young leaders. He listened to their questions, encouraged their ideas, and gently guided them toward solutions. There was a grace in his teaching, a way of inspiring confidence without intimidation. Lyra realized that this was the essence of human strength: the ability to empower others, to nurture potential, and to create lasting change. One evening, After a long day of council meetings and educational sessions, Lyra and Kale walked together on the palace terrace, gazing at the stars. The galaxy stretched infinitely before them, full of possibilities, challenges, and hope. "You've changed everything, Kale," Lyra said softly. "Not through force, not through dominance, but through wisdom, courage, and heart. You've shown that humans are not to be underestimated." Kale looked at her, a faint smile on his face. "It's not just me, Lyra. Humans have always had this potential. Most civilizations just haven't seen it yet. You've helped the galaxy see it, and you've helped me see it too. That's the real victory." Lyra felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had come to Earth expecting to secure peace through a political marriage, but she had discovered partnership, mutual respect, and the extraordinary qualities of humanity. Kale had proven that humans were capable of greatness, not by conquering, but by inspiring, uniting, and leading with courage and compassion. As they looked out at the stars, Lyra realized that their work was far from finished. The galaxy was vast, filled with potential allies, new worlds, and challenges yet unseen. But she also knew that with humans like Kale by her side, with their courage, intelligence, and unity, there was hope for a brighter, more harmonious future. The recognition of humans across the galaxy was no longer a matter of diplomacy alone. Their achievements in the storm, their ingenuity in the Luminar core mission, and their ability to inspire cooperation had changed perceptions forever. Humans were no longer seen as inexperienced or weak. They were respected, admired, and valued. In private moments, Lyra reflected on her own growth. She had learned that leadership was not just about strategy or authority. It was about empathy, patience, and the ability to unite others toward a common goal. She had learned that true strength was not measured in power, but in courage, intelligence, and heart. Kale had taught her these lessons, not through words alone, but through action, calm decisiveness, and unwavering dedication. Together, they worked to ensure that this new era of understanding would last. They coordinated joint initiatives between humans, Zitharans, and other species, emphasizing shared learning, cooperation, and mutual respect. Education programs, diplomatic exchanges, and collaborative projects flourished under their guidance. The galaxy slowly transformed. Conflicts that might have erupted into tension were now met with dialogue, cooperation, and creative solutions. Lyra watched as humans became symbols of unity and hope, their qualities admired by all who encountered them. Kale remained at the center, humble yet inspiring, leading not through fear, but through example. As they stood together during a ceremony recognizing their contributions, Lyra felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The marriage that had begun as a political necessity had grown into a partnership of mutual respect, admiration, and shared purpose. They had achieved more than peace. They had inspired a galaxy to recognize the extraordinary potential of humanity. "You've done something remarkable, Kale," Lyra said quietly, as the crowd celebrated around them. "Not just for humans, not just for Zithra, but for everyone." Kale took her hand, looking into her eyes with the same calm determination she had admired from the start. "We've done it together, Lyra. That's what matters most." And in that moment, Lyra realized the full truth of their journey. She had married a human for peace, yes, but she had discovered a partner whose courage, intelligence, and heart could inspire change, unity, and greatness across the galaxy. Humanity, underestimated for so long, had finally been recognized for what it truly was: brave, clever, adaptable, and capable of achieving greatness without dominance, without fear, and without violence. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter that night, reflecting the new hope that Lyra and Kale had ignited. The galaxy had seen humans not as underdogs, but as heroes, heroes who led through courage, intellect, and the power to unite. Lyra squeezed Kale's hand, a quiet smile on her face. She knew that the path ahead would still have challenges, but for the first time she was certain of one thing: Together, they could face anything. And as the celebrations continued, she looked at the man beside her, not just a human, not just a husband for peace, but a symbol of humanity's true greatness, a living proof that courage, wisdom, and heart could change the galaxy forever. The story of Lyra and Kale, of humans and Zitherans, would be remembered for generations. It was a story not of war or conquest, but of understanding, unity, and the extraordinary power of humanity when it acted with courage, intelligence, and heart. And so, the galaxy entered a new era, one where peace was not fragile but supported by mutual respect, where humans were no longer underestimated but celebrated for their brilliance, and where Lyra and Kale's partnership became a shining example of what could be achieved when wisdom and courage worked hand in hand. The marriage that had begun as a necessity had grown into a legacy, inspiring countless civilizations to see the true potential of humanity. And for Lyra and Kale, it was only the beginning.